I never noticed how loud silence could be until it filled our house. It seeps into the cracks of the walls, into the ticking of the clock at 2 a.m. When I'm awake, listening to Lila's soft breathing beside me, wondering if she's dreaming of the life we should have had, our house wasn't always this quiet. When we first bought it, Lila would dance through the halls, barefoot on the wood floors, humming songs she made up as she unpacked boxes and decorated each room with her laughter. We painted the nursery pale yellow, the color of hope, she said, as she traced her fingers over the empty crib we assembled together one rainy afternoon. She filled the drawers with tiny clothes, some new, some from thrift stores, each folded carefully, each a promise to the baby we believed was coming, but that was 2 years ago. Now, the nursery feels like a tomb for dreams we can't bury. I hear Lila in there sometimes when she thinks I'm not listening, her soft whispers, telling stories to the emptiness, rocking in the chair as she clutches the small stuffed bear we bought on a whim. She thinks if she believes hard enough, it will happen, that hope can somehow turn into flesh and blood. And every time I see her in that room, my heart cracks a little more. Mark's laughter was the worst part. Not because it was loud, but because it was warm. The kind that filled the empty air in a place, made you believe everything was okay even if your world was falling apart. I would stand at the kitchen window, gripping my coffee mug until my knuckles turned white, watching him push Oliver on the swing tied to the old oak in their yard. "Higher, Daddy. Higher." Oliver squealed. Mark would throw his head back, laughing as he gave the swing another push, and Oliver's giggles would echo across the fence, crawling into every corner of my house, reminding me of everything I couldn't give Lila. I saw her reflection in the window beside me, her eyes soft, her lips pulled into that small, hopeful smile that ripped me open every time. "They're so happy," she whispered, her voice as fragile as the dreams she scribbled into her journal late at night when she thought I was asleep. I didn't answer. My coffee had gone cold, bitter and sharp, but I swallowed it anyway, letting it burn down my throat like punishment. "One day, that will be us," she said, her hand lightly touching the glass, as if reaching for the life we didn't have. I forced myself to look at her, her hair pulled into a loose braid, her eyes glistening with a hope I didn't have the strength to kill. "Yeah," I said, pressing a kiss to her temple, the lie heavy on my tongue. "One day." The clinic was cold and sterile, smelling faintly of antiseptic and fear. I sat in that white plastic chair, hands trembling as the doctor came in with the test results. His face was calm, but his eyes held a hint of pity. "Ethan, your sperm count is critically low," he said softly. "Natural conception is unlikely, but not impossible. There are options we can explore, like IVF or other assisted methods, but they come with their own challenges." I nodded, swallowing hard, trying to absorb the weight of the words. I thought of Lila's hopeful smile, the plans we made, the dreams we nurtured. How could I tell her that the odds were stacked against us? That maybe, despite all our efforts, we might never have the family we longed for. I walked out of the clinic feeling hollow. I had to be strong for Lila, to keep her hope alive. So I kept the truth to myself, promising to keep trying, to find another way, even if I didn't know how. I never thought I'd do it. I never thought I'd be the kind of man to ask another man to help me have a child. But desperation has a way of breaking you down until you're willing to swallow your pride, your morals, everything. Mark was fixing his car in his driveway when I found the courage to speak. My heart hammered so loud I thought he might hear it over the engine noise. I swallowed the lump in my throat and said the words I'd rehearsed all day. "Mark, I need a favor. Something unusual." He looked up, eyebrows raised. "What kind of favor?" I told him everything, about Lila and me, the infertility, the doctor's grim prognosis. I told him I wanted to ask if he'd help us conceive. Not in some sordid way, I promised, but in a way that could save my marriage, save my wife from the pain she didn't deserve. At first, he laughed. Said I was crazy. Said I didn't know what I was asking. But the more I looked at him, the more I saw the cracks beneath his confident exterior, the unpaid bills he tried to hide, the strain in his marriage, the weight he carried silently. A week later, Mark called. He said yes. Lila believed I was going on a business trip. A last-minute opportunity that could help us financially. It was a lie I told her easily, because the truth was harder than anything I'd ever faced. Mark came to our house while I stayed in a hotel nearby. Every minute I was away was torture, every sound, every creak, every whispered word I imagined between them made my stomach turn. I hated myself for what I was doing, but I told myself it was for her, for us. That this was the only chance left. Weeks passed. Lila's period was late. Her eyes shone with hope again. She bought a test, and I held my breath as she disappeared into the bathroom. When she came out, her face was pale, her hands trembling. "It's negative," she said softly, tears filling her eyes. I held her as she broke down, wishing I could take away the pain, but knowing I'd only made it worse. The night it all began to unravel, I was pacing the floor of my small apartment, the dim light from the street lamp outside casting long shadows on the peeling wallpaper. My phone buzzed again, another message from Mark, short and curt. But it wasn't that text which made my heart sink. It was the sudden, angry voicemail from Celine that changed everything. Her voice was raw, trembling with fury and hurt. "Mark, how could you? You promised me you weren't involved. You lied. And to Ethan? How low can you go?" I sat down hard, the room spinning around me. For years, Mark's house had been a symbol of something I longed for, a happy family, a future. Now, that symbol was cracking. I couldn't help but replay the words over and over in my mind. "You're not even Oliver's father," Celine had found out. Somehow, she pieced the truth together faster than I ever imagined possible. She confronted Mark, furious, accusing him not only of betrayal to her but to me and Lila as well. I wanted to call her, to beg her to stop, but what could I say? That Mark was helping us because I begged him to. That I paid him thousands of dollars to do something he was unable to do. The next day, Mark didn't show up at work. His phone went straight to voicemail. Rumors started to swirl among the neighbors. I heard whispers of fights, of arguments so loud they echoed through the thin walls of our houses. I sat with Lila, her hands trembling as she read the messages she found on Mark's phone, texts she wasn't meant to see. Between Mark and Celine, the anger, the accusations, the secrets spilled like poison. The thought that Oliver, the little boy with Mark's laugh and Celine's eyes, might not be Mark's child, hit me like a freight train. I felt sick, betrayed not only by Mark but by the entire illusion I had clung to for so long that I knew I had to confront Mark. When he finally called me, his voice was broken, defeated. "I'm sterile," he confessed. "I've been this way for years. Celine, she lied to me. Oliver, he's not mine." The words shattered me. My money, my hope, my marriage, all built on a foundation of lies. Over the next few days, I wrestled with my own guilt and anger. How could I have been so blind? How could I have involved Mark without knowing his truth? What did this mean for Lila, for us? And worst of all, if Mark was sterile, who else was there? How deep did this deception run? The house grew colder. Lila's smile faded, and the silence screamed louder than ever. I still remember the sterile scent of the clinic as I sat there, waiting for the test results that would decide everything. My hands were clammy, heart racing in a way that felt unnatural, like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down into the unknown. Mark sat beside me, silent. The weight between us was thick, suffocating. When the doctor came back, his face was grim but professional. "Mark," he began, "the results confirm what we suspected. You have azoospermia, complete absence of sperm. This means you are sterile." The words echoed in the room, bouncing off the white walls, trapping me in a cage of disbelief. Sterile. Mark, our neighbor, the man I trusted to help my wife get pregnant, was sterile. My mind reeled. How long had he known? Had he lied to Celine too? Had he known when he accepted the money from me, pretending he could help? I looked at him then, his shoulders slumped, eyes glassy, and I felt a cocktail of anger, betrayal, and pity swirl inside me. The weeks that followed were a storm. Mark's marriage exploded. Celine confronted him with years of secrets, affairs, lies, betrayals. She admitted Oliver wasn't Mark's biological son. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, reading messages back and forth, replaying calls where I tried to hold myself together while inside I shattered. Lila was falling apart too. Her faith in me, in us, was wavering. Every secret whispered in the neighborhood, every rumor about Mark and Celine, chipped away at the fragile trust between us. I tried to be strong for Lila. I wanted to shield her from the storm, but I was drowning too. Every time I looked at her, I saw the confusion and pain behind her eyes. Was the baby we dreamed of just a fantasy, or was it slipping further away because of me? The most crushing part was knowing the truth I was hiding from Lila, that Mark couldn't have fathered her child, because Lila wasn't pregnant, not yet, and maybe never. In the silence of our home, I felt the crushing weight of desperation, of mistakes made in the shadows, of a promise broken before it was even made. And I wondered, how far would I go to save the family I was losing? The weight of the empty nursery pressed down on me like a stone. Every morning, I'd watch Lila rise with a fragile hope that this would be the month. She'd smile at me with that glimmer in her eyes, the hope I could no longer share. The vitamins, the teas, the prayers, they were all part of her ritual, her desperate attempt to breathe life into a dream slipping away. The day the test came back negative again, she crumbled. I sat beside her on the cold bathroom floor, holding her trembling hands as tears spilled freely. Her sobs echoed against the tile, a sound I wished I could silence but couldn't. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And in that moment, I knew the weight of my secret was crushing her spirit even more than the absence of a child. The house felt colder. The silence grew louder. Our conversations became short, strained. Lila stopped talking about the future, about names, about birthdays, about the nursery that still smelled like hope. I watched her retreat into herself, and I couldn't reach her. I hated myself for dragging her into this mess, for hiding the truth, for letting my desperation cloud my judgment. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with my guilt and shame. How did it come to this? How did I go from hoping to give her everything to watching her wither away? I thought about Mark, about the lies, the secrets, the betrayal. I thought about the money I gave him, the promises made in desperation, the trust one misplaced. But most of all, I thought about Lila. The woman who loved me even when the world seemed to be falling apart, the woman who deserved better. The negative tests kept coming. The hope we clung to was slipping through our fingers like sand. And I was left wondering if our family would ever be anything more than a house filled with empty rooms. The moment I realized Mark had deceived me, my world shifted. I had trusted him with my wife's hopes, with our future, with thousands of dollars I could barely afford. And all the while, he had been hiding the truth. He was sterile, unable to father a child, and yet he took my money like it was nothing. I felt rage boil inside me, but it wasn't just anger. It was betrayal, the deep, searing kind that cuts through every part of you. I wanted justice. I wanted to make him pay for what he'd done to me, to Lila, to us. I met with a lawyer, and the process began. I filed a lawsuit against Mark, charging him with fraud, breach of trust, and emotional damages. The legal papers felt cold and final, but for the first time in months, I felt a spark of control. The courtroom was a battleground. Mark sat across from me, his eyes dark, guarded. The judge looked at both of us with a stern expression, ready to dissect the tangled web of lies. Evidence was presented, bank statements showing the rent payments and cash transfers, text messages revealing the arrangement, and medical reports confirming Mark's sterility. Celine testified, her voice trembling as she revealed Mark's long-held secret and the betrayal she felt. The courtroom was heavy with tension, each word like a hammer striking the fragile foundation of our lives. As the judge delivered the verdict in my favor, a wave of relief washed over me. Mark was ordered to repay every cent, but money couldn't fix the cracks. The emotional damage, the broken trust, the shattered dreams, those were wounds that no court could heal. Lila and I sat in the empty nursery after the trial, the walls echoing with memories of hope and despair. She looked at me with eyes I barely recognized, eyes filled with pain, confusion, and a distance I feared would never close. We tried counseling, tried to mend what was broken, but the shadows of the past lingered. I realized then that the price of desperation was far higher than I ever imagined. And some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. The courtroom was silent, except for the steady voice of the prosecutor laying bare the truth no one wanted to face. Mark's sterile diagnosis was no secret to those closest to him, except me, except Lila. And yet, he had accepted our money, our trust, knowing full well the hopes he was shattering. Celine took the stand, her voice shaky but resolute. She spoke of years of secrets, of betrayals both big and small. She confessed that Oliver was not Mark's biological son, a truth she had hidden for too long out of fear and pain. Mark's defenses crumbled. The pride and confidence I once saw were replaced by a hollow shell, a man broken by the weight of his own lies. As the judge read the verdict, Mark ordered to repay the money, the reality settled in my chest like a stone. Justice in the courtroom couldn't bring back what we'd lost, couldn't heal the fractures in my marriage or erase the years of false hope. Lila's eyes were distant as we left the courthouse, her hand cold in mine. The woman I loved was slipping away, lost somewhere between pain and disillusionment. The nursery remained empty. The silence in our home grew deeper with every passing day. Lila left. She said she needed space to find herself again, away from the ghosts of broken promises and shattered dreams. I watched her pack a single bag, her face streaked with tears, and felt the last thread holding us together snap. Mark disappeared, leaving behind a mess of debts, lies, and a family fractured beyond repair. I sat alone in the nursery, the pale yellow walls mocking me, the crib untouched, the tiny clothes folded neatly but gathering dust. I had chased a desperate hope, crossed lines I can never uncross, and in doing so, I lost everything. Sometimes, in the quiet, I hear Lila's laughter in my memories, see her smile when we talked of a future we never had, but those days are gone. And all that remains is the heavy price of desperation. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more stories.